And we're gonna start with our jumping jacks in 3, 2, 1, and go. So starting with those jumping jacks. I'm just going to turn up my volume here to make sure we can hear this. And again, if those jumping jacks are too high impact, we can do those side steps with our arms involved. You can also do skipping if you have a skipping rope at home and enough space to do that. Five seconds left. Good job. Now we're going to get ready to do our goblet squats. So starting with that weight vertically at our chest. And we're squatting down, holding that weight at our chest. So remember, as we squat, our feet are a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, toes are pointed outwards, and we're sitting down, keeping that chest upwards. And if that squat is a bit too challenging, we can do that goblet squat, but with a chair for assistance. Good job. Now we're going to get into our reverse lunge. And if you can't bring your knee all the way down to the floor, then we're just taking a big step back, bringing that knee as low as we can, standing back up, and then lifting our knee as high as we can on that same leg. And remember, you can always hold on to something for support during these exercises. Good job. Now, after those lunges, we're going to get into our deadlifts. So grabbing our dumbbells and holding them at our hips to start. From here, we're taking those dumbbells down the front of our legs by hinging at our hips till we get to mid-shin, standing back up again. And so remember, we want to make sure that our back is nice and flat throughout this entire movement. Good job. After those deadlifts, we're going to get into our hollow hold. So coming down onto the ground now. Lying flat on our backs. And so hollow hold, legs are out, arms are out, and we're pushing our core into our mat. If that's too difficult, we can bring our hands at our sides and bend at the knees. And if you are not coming down to the floor today and you're doing these seated, then you're going to be doing those alternating knee to elbows from that chair position. Good job. After that hollow hold, we're going to get into our glute bridges. If you're not doing glute bridges, then I would like you to do some standing leg abduction. So otherwise, we're down on the floor, laying on our backs, doing those glute bridges. So pushing through our heels, bringing our hips up into the air, and moving through those two movements. So when we're at the top here, we should be able to draw a straight line from our knee joint to our hip joint, all the way to our shoulder joint. And if you're doing those standing leg abductions, I'll let you know that you should switch right now to the other side. Good job. Then our next movement is going to be that Russian twist. So holding our dumbbell in both of our hands, and we're taking that dumbbell from side to side, whether we're sitting on a chair or we're down on the floor. And remember, to make this a bit more difficult, we can bring our feet up into the air. Otherwise, our heels are just planted on the floor, and we're bringing that dumbbell from side to side. And same thing if you're sitting in a chair. Good job. Now our next movement is going to be that floor press. If you're not down on the floor, then what you can do from a seated position is just that shoulder press. Otherwise, we're laying on the floor, back is on the floor, feet are planted, dumbbells are directly over top of our wrists, elbows, and shoulders, and then we're bending at the elbow to bring those dumbbells down closer to the floor, and then pushing back up again. And so remember, throughout the entire movement, our dumbbell should be directly over our wrist and our elbow. Good job. Now after our floor press, we're going to stand back up again and get ready to do those alternating front and lateral raises. So dumbbells in hand, we're lifting those dumbbells out to the side, to our shoulder height, back down, and then out front to our shoulder height and back down. Remember to move nice and slow and controlled throughout this movement here. And remember, you don't want to use your body momentum. Instead, you want to just bend or flex at the shoulders here. Good job. Now we're going to take a 1-minute rest before we go through that a few more times. So grab a sip of water, take a moment to catch your breath. And we're halfway through our rest. And remember, we're going to start back up at the top, starting with those jumping jacks. Starting in 10 seconds. And starting with those jumping jacks. Or if you have a skipping rope and you have the space, you'll be skipping. Or if those options are a bit too high impact for your joints, then we're doing those side steps with our arms involved. Good job. And then our next movement is going to be those goblet squats. So getting ready with our dumbbell vertically at our chest. So as we squat, feet are just a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. Our toes are pointed outwards. And we're sitting down, making sure our knees go over toes, and then stand back up again. Good job. Now our next movement is going to be those lunges into that knee drive. So starting with our feet directly under our hips. We're taking a big step back with one of our legs, bringing that knee as close to the floor or to the floor if we can, then coming back up and bringing our knee as high as we can. And holding onto something for support if you need it. And 10 seconds left. Good job. After those lunges, we're getting back into those deadlifts. So starting with our dumbbells at our hips. We're lowering those dumbbells by hinging at the hips, bringing them to about mid-shin, making sure to keep our back straight and standing back up again. So remember to keep those dumbbells as close to your body as you're able to, and keeping that back as straight as you can. Good job. After those deadlifts, we're coming down onto the floor to get into our hollow hold next. Remember, if you're doing these from a seated position, you're doing that alternating knee to elbow. Otherwise, we're down on the floor, back is against the floor, and we're placing our arms and legs up into the air, trying to really engage those big core muscles. So really trying to push that core into our mat. Good job. Our next movement is going to be those glute bridges. And if you're not doing these glute bridges, then you're doing those standing leg abductions. So glute bridges down on our backs, we're pushing through our heels to lift our hips into the air. coming back down and just moving through that. Making sure to squeeze your glutes together at the top here. And if you're doing those standing leg abductions, you can switch legs now. Good job. And then our next movement is going to be those Russian twists. So holding one dumbbell now. And we're taking that dumbbell from side to side, rotating at our core. And remember, you can do this either seated in a chair or down on the floor. "20 seconds left. Good job. Then after those Russian twists, we're getting into our floor press. And if you're not down on the floor, then from a seated position, we're going to do those overhead press. Otherwise, we're doing floor press, so we're laying on our backs here. Dumbbells are directly over our wrists, elbows, and shoulders. We're bending at the elbows. And once those arms touch the floor, then we're pushing back up again. So remember, our dumbbells should always be over our wrists and our elbows. And moving nice and slow and controlled throughout this. And same principles go for if you're doing that overhead press. Good job. Now we're going to stand back up again and get ready to do those alternating front and lateral raises. So lifting those dumbbells out to our sides, up to our shoulder height, back down, and then out front, up to our shoulder height, and back down again. And just moving through those two movements, nice and controlled. We're over halfway there. Good job. Now we're taking that 1 minute rest before we do that one more time. So grabbing a drink of water or whatever you need. And in 30 seconds, we're going to start back up again, starting with those jumping jacks. And starting back up with those jumping jacks. And if jumping jacks or skipping is too high impact, we can always do those side steps with our arms involved. If you're doing the side steps, I want you to make sure that you're clearing the ground with every step. So every time you step, your foot comes completely off the ground. Good job. Now we're going to move into our goblet squats. So holding that dumbbell vertically at our chest. Our feet are a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and we're squatting down, making sure our knees go over our toes and standing back up again. As we squat, we're trying to keep our chest up nice and tall. And remember, you can always do sit to stands as another option. Otherwise, we're doing those regular goblet squats. Good job. After those goblet squats, we're getting ready to do our lunges. So starting with our feet directly under our hips, we're taking a big step back with one of our feet, bringing that knee as close to the floor or to the floor if we're able to, then standing back up and bringing that knee up into the air into that knee drive. And just repeating that with our opposite side. And remember, you can always hold on to something for support if you need. And as we do these lunges, I want you to try and keep your chest up nice and vertical. Good job. Now we're going to get into our deadlifts again. So just like those lunges, feet are directly under our hips. We're starting with the dumbbells at our hips, and we're bending at the hips to bring those dumbbells to mid-shin, keeping our back straight, pulling back up again. So remember, trying to keep those dumbbells as close to our legs as we're able to. Good job. After our deadlifts, we're getting down on the floor to get ready to do those hollow holds. And if you're not coming down onto the floor, then sitting in your chair, getting ready to do those alternating knee to elbows. Otherwise, we're laying with our backs on the floor, bringing our arms and feet into the air as we push our core into that mat underneath us. So really engaging the core muscles here. Good job. Then after those hollow holds, we're going to move into our glute bridges. If you're not doing glute bridges down on the floor, then you're doing those standing leg abduction. So glute bridge, laying on our back, pushing through our heels to lift our hips into the air, squeezing our glutes at the top, and then reversing that movement on the way down. Really trying to engage the glutes throughout this movement here. And you can switch sides if you're doing those standing leg abductions. Good job. After those glute bridges, we're doing our Russian twist. So grabbing that one dumbbell. And you can still do these Russian twists if you're sitting in a chair. We're just taking that dumbbell from side to side by rotating at the core, using our core muscles here. And you can either have your feet planted on the floor or up in the air, whichever works best for you. Good job. Then after our Russian twists, we're going to get into those floor presses. And if you're not down on the floor, then you're going to do those overhead presses. So floor press, dumbbells are directly over our wrists, elbows, and shoulders. Then we're bending at the elbows. Once the back of our arms touch that floor, we're pushing back up again, making sure to keep those dumbbells directly over our wrists and elbows throughout the entire movement. Good job. Then after those floor press, we're standing back up again to finish it off with our alternating front and lateral raises. So lifting those dumbbells out front to our shoulder height, back down, and then out to the sides, up to our shoulder height, and back down. Remember, we're not using our body momentum to lift these. We're just bending at the shoulders to lift our dumbbells. Nice and slow and controlled. Good job. And that is our workout for today. So good job, everybody.